Hello and welcome to the first module of the chapter training modules that the base section team has been putting together for you. Our first module is about chapter activities. So a quick overview of what we're going to be covering today. We're going to start off with competitive conferences, then professional conferences. We'll move on to chapter projects and state projects. Then we'll go to champion chapter, the business achievement award, student challenges, and then finally end on some general chapter activities. If you don't know what these mean yet, don't worry. But the first question is, why are you watching this, right? Why does the chapter need to do all these activities? What are these activities, etc., etc.? Well, FBLA has a host of activities you can do. It's not you individually going on your own and trying to figure out what to do. There are a lot of activities that FBLA as a national and state organization, and even at the section level, have put together so that chapters can complete those activities. So there is some sort of a guide. Of course, if you want to do your own thing and you want to do some projects that are specific to your chapter, you're more than welcome to. But if you're looking for things to do for your chapter, or maybe you're just starting a chapter and you're wondering what does an FBLA chapter do, here's some of the activities that are available to different chapters. Doing these activities are really important because then you're able to build these valuable skills and do this valuable work that impacts not only your students and members, but also the community as a whole. And we'll get into that later, especially with some of the projects specifically. So we'll start off with competitive conferences. There are 3 conferences. There is the base section conference, the state conference, and then the national conference. Obviously, each section has their own section conference, but here in the Bay, ours is just called the Bay Section Leadership Conference, which you'll see abbreviated to BSLC. And same for states and Nats, it's SLC, State Leadership Conference, and NLC, National Leadership Conference. These conferences are essentially different levels. So we start off at the base section level. That's generally going to be at some high school in base section. It commonly switches between Homestead and Limbrook, but the base section team now and in future years will probably try to get more schools involved in that. But you'll never have to go very far. So that's the first section level. Then you go on to the state level, the entire state of California, which is the State Leadership Conference. This one's a lot bigger, it's a lot more professionally organized, and it's a lot of fun to go to. The location for this also tends to switch, but this year it will be in Anaheim, so Disneyland's hometown. That's going to be a lot of fun. And the National Leadership Conference, if you qualify, is the same thing, just on the national level. It's even bigger, even better. And this also, the location changes every year. It was in Chicago, then it was in Atlanta, and now it is going to be in Orlando. So you get Disneyland and Disney World, at least in 2023. If you're watching it in future years, you can check on the FBLA website pretty easily to see where these state and national conferences are going to be. Again, these conferences are great because this is going to be where you're competing essentially. So the competitive events for FBLA, the ones that most people I like to think about when they think of FBLA, those are the competitions that you do at these conferences. So you go there with your team, you fly to the hotel, you take a bus to the hotel, however you get there, and then you're staying there for a couple days. This is specific to the state and national conference. The base section conference is only a day. But for the state and the national ones, you're going there with your chapter and you're staying in a hotel, you're going to the conference, you're going to workshops, you're going to introduction sessions, closing sessions, award ceremonies, you're obviously competing in your event. So there's a lot there, and it can be a little overwhelming, but there are a lot of resources out there, and a great thing to do is work with other chapters in your section. Especially if you're a new chapter, they'd be glad to help, and I'm sure the section team would also be helping you out with that. There are multiple events that you can do. There are 4 main ones that we normally talk about. The first one is written events. This is personally my favorite, but for a lot of people, this isn't going to be the most fun because it is a 100-question multiple choice test. If you're not into that, that's completely fine, but don't discount it immediately. You do learn a lot about a topic. It is the one, I'd say, objective test where it's just a score out of 100. You're not dependent on anyone judging your abilities or anything that could happen with having different judges. So if you want something that's nice and objective, simple to study for, but you still end up learning a lot, I highly recommend written tests. Then there are prejudged events. In prejudged events, you submit materials beforehand, and then those are recognized at the conference. This can include a recording or a report, and there are a lot of them. So you should definitely do some research there. So if you like working on projects, for instance, you like working on projects, this could be a great event for you. Then there are role play events. I'd say for a lot of people, these end up being the most fun. This is where you reenact some sort of scenario or experience in the business world. So you might be giving a presentation. You might be doing an interview. You might be consulting the judges on some financial decisions. There is a lot of variety in this category, and it's a really fun one. And then finally, there are oral events. This is what you're public speaking. There are a couple more too. You're giving a speech or a presentation in front of judges. So if you want to build up that aspect of your skill set, this is a great opportunity to do that. There are also some other events that sometimes people often look over. The first is intro events. So in the previous events that we were talking about, if you were to search them up on the FBLA website, you would see some be like intro to FBLA or introduction to financial math. These are limited to 9th and 10th graders only. This is a good thing if you're a 9th and 10th grader because it means you'll be competing in an easier event, theoretically, which is only limited to underclassmen. If you are an 11th and 12th grader, unfortunately, you cannot partake in these events. They're equally recognized at the level. It's just a nice opportunity for underclassmen to get their foot in the door, especially if they have not prepared or studied or done an FBLA event before. There are also wildcard events. So when you are going to the state and national conference and you have your events you're going to, there are also events that you can take directly at states and directly at nationals, which means you literally go into the room at the right time and you can just take the test right there and then. There are a couple of these, not that many. This is a great thing to do in addition to the events you're already signed up for. And they do receive recognition, though the competition is, I would say, fiercer in the sense that generally only the top 2 or top couple are recognized compared to the top 10, which is normal for most events. And obviously, some events don't start at the section level. Some of them start at the state level. I don't know if any of them start at the national level. Generally, you're going to see a lot of events start at the state level, not the section level. So normally for most events, you start at the section level, then you qualify for states, then you qualify for nationals. If you place in the top 8 or top 6 or whatever it is for the event, it changes per event. For these events, you don't have to do it as sections. It starts at state. So you take the event at state, and then if you qualify for nationals, you can take that event at the national level. So now we'll go on to professional conferences. So these are different. These are not competition-based, but these are where you can build your business skills. So we have 2 here in California. The first one is going to be OAT Day, which is a section-specific conference. So Bay Section will try to host a OAT Day every year. This will be at some high school again. And this is a great opportunity to meet other Bay Section officers and learn about the upcoming year. Generally, this conference happens earlier in the year. It's the first professional conference. So make sure from the start of the year, you're looking out for the sign-up form for this event. And it's only 1 day long. Normally, it's about half a day, really. So we highly recommend that all chapters come to OAT Day if they can. And the second one is the Leadership Development Institute, which is abbreviated as LDI. This is a statewide conference, so it's perhaps more professional, larger. You're going to meet people from all over the states. You're going to participate in professional workshops, speaker events, and it's a lot of fun. You also have to generally go somewhere else. This year in 2023, it's being held at the Santa Clara Marriott, so that's great for Bay Section. It's right in our hometown, but sometimes it will be elsewhere in the state, and you will have to get there, and it's a couple-day affair. And there are also links on the slide to the URLs where you can find more information. If you're watching this in future years other than 2023, these links may not work, but you should still be able to type in like the title, for example, Leadership Development Institute, California FBLA, and you should be able to find something on Google. So then we're going to move into chapter projects. So chapter projects, there are 4 of them. First of all, what is a chapter project? A chapter project is an event that you can pursue at those competitive conferences that we were talking about first. And there are 4 of them. So these are things you do with your chapter. It's kind of like a team event. And then you can present it. You submit a prejudged portion beforehand, and then you present it at the actual conference, so the state conference or the national conference. There are 4 of these. The first one is the partnership with business, where you partner with a local business and you create a positive impact in your community. Then there is the community service project, where you work with an organization to help grow the community. These 2 can seem a bit similar. I'd say the difference is partnership with business is specifically with a business, while community service project is with an organization. For example, the fire department or police department or a nonprofit in your region. Not exactly a business. American Enterprise Project is where you educate the community on the American economic system. And then finally, Local Chapter Annual Business Report is where you can show off all the progress that your chapter has made throughout the year, all the goals you've done, all the activities you've done. Generally, I'd say LCABR is done by the section or the chapter presidents, just because they have hopefully a lot of know-how about what's been going on, but really it's open to pretty much anyone in the chapter, I'm pretty sure. And again, if you want to learn more about these, there is a link below. Okay, moving on to state projects. These are a bit different. So there are 2 types. There are individual ones and chapter ones. These are differentiated from chapter projects in that they're not exactly events you do at the competitive conferences. These are more things that you can do on your own and then get recognized at the conference. So you don't do this at the conference. This is done on your own time beforehand. The 2 types you have are, again, individual and chapter. For individual, there's the Financial Literacy Project, the Green Initiative Project, Leaders in Action, and the Professional Profile Project. I'll just go quickly over what each of those do. The first one, the Financial Literacy Project, you essentially are learning about financial literacy. You have to explain some terms, you have to do some research, and essentially you're showing that you know financial literacy or you know important aspects about the economy. Green Initiative Project is about eco-friendlyism and integrating that into the work you do in your community. Leaders in Action is a very diverse set of tasks where essentially you're building your leadership skills both in FBLA and outside of FBLA. There's the Professional Profile Project where you are learning about a job position and you're researching it and you are exploring workplace skills. So if any of those sound interesting to you, please check them out. They're available at the URL there at the bottom. On our chapter level, there's Adopt a Chapter where you're adopting a chapter, you're helping grow a new chapter in your region. There's Government Awareness Project, which is where you're essentially educating your members about government as a whole and connecting them with government in various ways. And then there's Community Fundraising, where you're fundraising for your community. Some of these are a bit self-explanatory. The one thing I will say is that these sometimes get updated from year to year. So don't just use one from past years. Make sure you're going to the website and you're finding the official one for the new year. It would be a shame if you complete the entire thing and then turns out the guidelines or the project or the tasks have changed. Moving on to Champion Chapter. This is chapter specific. This is essentially a list of goals, challenges, and tasks that you can complete and will help grow your chapter. You will receive recognition at the state and national level if you reach certain levels. So you can see there on the right what the Champion Chapter Tracker looks like. This is essentially all the things that you need to do, and it's available on the website at the link there on the slides. There are 4 seasons, as FBLA likes to call it: Summer Starter, Shaping Success, Service, Season, and CTE Celebration. There are a list of activities in each of these, and you want to complete as many as possible. Each of them give you a certain amount of points, and there are different levels based on how many points you achieve. So there's a bronze, there's a silver, there's a gold, and then there's one level higher than that. I'm forgetting the name right now, but there's one level even higher with its own set of tasks. All that is pretty easy to figure out from just looking at the flyer. And again, this is a great way to not only plan activities for your chapter and make sure your chapter is actually doing activities and doing things, but you'll also receive that recognition at the state and national level, and it's extremely prestigious. Again, this is a chapter thing, so you might want to divide up the tasks between different officers, for example. Then there's the BAA, or the Business Achievement Award. So what is BAA? It is an individual awards program. So this one is individual, it's not by the chapter. And you are essentially completing online modules on FBLA's platform. There are a ton of things that this helps you do. You enhance leadership skills, expand your business knowledge, contribute to local communities, and you earn recognition. And yeah, essentially you're watching these videos, you're completing activities, you can complete a project. We'll talk more about that later. And you learn a lot, and you learn a lot about FBLA and about the business world, and you get recognized for it. So it's pretty nice. You do this on FBLA's platform. They have changed it recently, so make sure you're going to the website and looking specifically where you're going to do it. I think they've moved it to FBLA Connect. Again, that website is there at the bottom. Now, there are 4 levels of achievement. So based on how much you do, how much work you put in, there are different ones that, they're different, how should I say it? The more you do, the higher level you get. So you start off with contributor, which is you're just learning the introduction to, being introduced to the foundations of FBLA, and you learn how to take advantage of opportunities in FBLA. Then you move on to leader, where you learn the fundamentals of leadership and you explore your personal leadership style. Then you move on to advocate, where you're selecting a business skill or content area to further develop. And the final level is the capstone project, where you're actually designing, completing, and reflecting on a project to solve a real world problem. So it goes from contributor to leader to advocate and capstone. If you want to stop at leader, you're like, that's all I need to do, or that's all the time I have, perfectly fine. If you want to follow through with it and you want to go all the way to the capstone project, that's also great and amazing. Going on to student challenges. So there are 2 student challenges that I'll talk about right now, and those are the stock market game and the virtual business challenge. The stock market game is an online simulation. This is one that a lot of you may be familiar with. It is an online simulation of the stock market. You are given some seed money, you are allowed to invest how you want, and the goal is to make the most money by the end of the period. You can do this in teams of 2 to 5. Winners will receive a digital certificate and a medallion, and they are featured on the National FBLA magazine, which is read by thousands of students nationwide. Then there's the virtual business challenge, somewhat similar, but also somewhat different. This is an online simulation with teams of 1 to 3 people. It takes about a couple hours to complete an attempt, but you can do multiple attempts. Again, the goal is to get the highest score. And there are 2 things you can do, either personal finance or management. And first place gets $1,000 in reward money. The virtual business challenge is done on a separate platform. It's kind of like a game, honestly, and how well you play the game is your score. So it's a lot of fun. Some of you might end up doing this in your business class, but if not, you should definitely research it. It's a great way to get involved. These are also, I don't have the link on the slides here, but you can search up stock market game FBLA or California FBLA, and you should be able to find it. The registration deadlines are generally in October, so you want to make sure you're signing up and telling your members about it early in the year. And then general chapter activities. So we've covered a bunch of things that you guys can do that FBLA offers, but here's some things that you can do aside from that, just general ideas to get the ball rolling. So the first one is to create a POW, or program of work. So this is essentially a list of goals for the year. It doesn't have to follow a specific template. There are templates online that you can find, but the main idea is that you're creating a list of goals to reach some preferred goal, to reach some larger goal in mind. For example, you can say that we want to increase membership by 50%. So these are 5 things that we're going to do throughout the year to increase membership. Or you can say we want to increase the social responsibility and awareness of our chapter. So these are the 4 things that we're going to do. Here's who's assigned to them, and this is our way to keep track of that progress. It's not something you're submitting, it's not something that's required, but it's just a great way to keep on track. And this can be done generally in addition to Champion Chapter, it can be combined with Champion Chapter, a lot of flexibility. Then there's social media. Obviously, if you don't already, you should be making a club Instagram or website. These are great ways to get the word out about your club, a great way to gain new members and to advertise. For member of the month, which is the third one, this is essentially choosing a member each month that you think has really put in work, really showed progress or promise in FBLA, and you want to recognize that person and highlight the things they've done. This is a great way to incentivize participation and reward those who are putting in the work. It's a great way to increase engagement in the club. Throughout the year, we like to host speaker events. So these are essentially asking people in industry or alumni or national FBLA officers or professors. It could be a lot of different type of people, asking them to come either virtually or in person and talk about their experience, answer questions. If you want them to talk about a specific thing, you can. If you want them to just talk about themselves, that's also a great option. This is a great thing for members because it's a nice activity that should hopefully incentivize members to show up to meetings, and they get to learn about industry and a lot of different things about the business world from someone who is immersed in the business world. And then finally, there are a ton of things you can do. Again, you can do any of the now 7 different activities we talked about beforehand, or you can do other things for your chapter. It's really up to you how you take advantage of being a part of FBLA. We encourage you to take part of activities, definitely attend conferences like the competitive conferences and the professional conferences. But as a chapter, there are so many things you can do, and really, there's no limit. It's just up to you about how much you want to. If you are interested in learning more, there's a link to the official FBLA toolkit for new high school chapters. Even if you're an existing chapter, it might be useful to just check out this toolkit and see maybe there's some things that you're unsure about or things you never heard of. For example, I didn't cover FBLA week, but that's also a great thing that a lot of chapters do. That can all be found at that link over there. And if that link stops working, then you can just search up FBLA High School 101 Toolkit, and hopefully you'll be able to find it online. So good luck with your chapter. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any questions, I would say email or contact your base section liaison. Each high school should have a liaison from the base section team who should be working with you, helping you out with things, and being a form of communication between the base section team and individual chapters. However, if you don't have one, or you don't know who yours is, then you should probably contact your advisor. You can contact the base section advisor, which is Mr. Logie at Homestead, and they should be able to help you out. Again, good luck. Thank you for watching this video, and have a nice day. Thank you.